Alright then, so this is a subject that I've been wanting to talk about for a while now, ever since I got done playing through Kingdom Hearts 3 and everything. And needless to say, this particular subject had me very worried. It's a particular subject that I fear the most, actually. It's probably my greatest fear as a gamer. And this goes beyond digital distribution, this goes beyond microtransactions, this goes beyond loot boxes. Is the fact that every company that is out there, every company, whether it's the big three, being that in Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft, whether an individual distributor, being that of Square Enix, Capcom, Konami, whatever. The biggest fear that I have is that we're going to get to a point to where instead of just being able to play games, it's going to be all under a service. And I'm going to explain why that's my biggest fear. So let's first talk about what brought up this subject in general. So it first kind of started off with the ideal that, PC gaming has become an issue for everyone. Now, I can't go into major detail myself because I'm not familiar with PC gaming in general, but there are multiple people that you can watch right now where they've talked about this. And it first starts off with Steam. Steam was the original and the big top dog when it comes to PC gaming. And they are, at the end, a service. You can download their service to where you can purchase their game strictly directly from their store, and you can play whatever games you want. Every once in a while they'll have a sale and you'll be able to play them at a discounted price and stuff. Recently though, there's been multiple distribution centers that's actually doing this same process. At first you had Uplay, which not a lot of people talk about, but it is there technically, which is basically Ubisoft's main server, to where you can purchase game and play them on the PC as well. Same thing can be said for, as far as I know, Bethesda also has their own one, which I didn't know, because from what I've heard, technically, they didn't have Fallout 76 available for Steam, and that's where this whole transgression of not being able to refund their game and stuff like that kind of started happening. It became quite an issue, actually. It was one of the nastier things I've seen thus far. But the biggest thing that kind of started up was that of Epic. Now, if you don't know who Epic is the main company that made Fortnite. And because of their success and everything, they've actually decided to take on the mantle of being the competitor of Steam. And they are right now showing it. They are actually showing that they are the better one. They're giving individual companies, whether they're indie developers or AAA company, the ability to make more money off of the product they make, to a point where I think, I may be wrong on this, but I believe they are getting over 90% of the profit as it is. In other words, Epic's barely making any money off of it, and instead the actual distributor that actually makes the game actually gets the majority of the profit. If I'm not mistaken, Steam was a little bit different. They gave 80% to the actual individual creators, and they got to keep like 20% or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like that. And for the most part, Steam has been acting very, best way of saying it, stupid. And Epic actually decided to take on the mantle of being a competitor to try to beat them at their own game. And, technically they could if they wanted to. They have that right. They have the right to where if they want to go after Steam and beat them at their own game and make their own business, their own servers and everything like that, they are allowed to, technically. Any game company can do this. But from what people are saying, this can be an issue. In fact, to a lot of people, it is a complication when it comes to different companies and everything like that, and having to keep track of different passwords and stuff like that. And being able to have different programs, services, and stuff like that, being able to play them on a single hardware system can be a little bit overwhelming, I think. Now, that's just the start of it all. That wasn't the main thing that made me worried. What made me worried was something else that happened. So if you don't know, recently Microsoft and Nintendo are teaming up to where you have the ability to where Xbox Live will be available for the Nintendo Switch. As of right now, it's kind of unknown at the moment because currently a lot of people thought this was a joke, but no, this is a real thing. This is a real thing that's actually happening. I don't know how or why, considering Xbox One system performance specs. It's powerful enough to where it can go up to 4K resolution in of itself. It is a powerful PC. Nintendo Switch, on the other hand, is not that powerful. It goes up to 1080p, and depending on if you're on console or on handheld mode, it barely pushes 60 frames per second. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it can go up to 60 on console form, but in handheld, it reduces it to almost 30 frames per second. And from a lot of people, it's not a major complaint, but compared to that of the Xbox One, it's not the superior system. Keep this in mind. So to hear that Xbox Live will be available for the Nintendo Switch caught me off guard, but on the one hand, there was a lot of good things that I thought of this, but then ultimately something else kind of scratched my head and made me start to second guess myself. Now, here's something that made me go, this could be good. Depending on what games could be available. Now keep in mind, the only reason why they did this was because they had an announcement saying that the Xbox Live will be available for iOS devices, Android devices, as well as the Nintendo Switch. It could be believable that it would be available for iOS and Android, because obviously it's available for anything that has a Windows program in it, being that a PC, obviously, and obviously select phones that have the Windows program into it, particularly Windows 10. However, though, to see it on the Nintendo Switch is a shocker for me. Now, of course, I'm not going to back at it, of course, anything like that. This obviously gives a lot of positive feedback depending on who you are. Obviously, if you're not interested in buying an Xbox One, but there are actually like at least 2 or 3 games that you are interested in having, the Nintendo Switch might have it available in their console. It's hard to say where the limitation goes. I can kind of see games like Cuphead being available for the Nintendo Switch. I don't see games like that of Gears of War or Halo available. Although if they do become available for the Nintendo Switch, that is a big positive in terms of Xbox's system specs. It could help, actually. It could help Microsoft build a better company, actually. It really could. The fact that it's available for the Nintendo Switch, and let's face it, the Nintendo Switch is already being a rival system to that of the PlayStation 4. Everyone loves the system. Everyone loves it. It's a beautiful system. The fact that you can put it on your console and play it, or you can take it with you anywhere you go. It is a beautiful ideal. It's something that every gamer wanted. To have both their cake and icing at the same time, and it be collided in perfect harmony. Instead of it being, oh, well, this is a handheld console, so obviously it's going to be withdrawn from certain feedback. Oh, this is a console, it's more superior, it's able to do better stuff. With Nintendo, they were able to prove them wrong and have a console and handheld into one system. It makes sense for why Microsoft would want to push something like this. They may not be able to do good when it comes to selling consoles, but if people wants to buy their games, then that would be good enough in order to help them in terms of being able to sell games for their company. It would help them. It really would. It's like, well, if we can't beat Sony or Nintendo, let's see if we can team up with Nintendo and try selling our games through Nintendo. And if this works, this will help Sony. I'm getting myself backwards here. This will help Microsoft in the long run. It really will. It will help them. It will promote them. And it will be the best collaboration that has been seen in years. My biggest worry, though, is the customer support system of it all. Keep this in mind. This is both a Nintendo and a Microsoft issue. So, here's the situation. When it comes down to it, you're not able to play Xbox physical disc games onto the Nintendo Switch, obviously. It's mostly going to be games that are disc versions, that are not disc, digital versions only. So, in other words, you can download games from the Xbox Live and play them on the Nintendo Switch. That's the obvious thing that's going to happen. So, obviously, when it comes to that, that means that you'll be able to play games, like I said, Cuphead on the Nintendo Switch. But let's say there's something else that goes wrong. Now, I'm only saying this because there are proof that this is a technical issue. This could be a situation that could happen. Let's say, for example, this is probably the dumbest one because technically Nintendo has it available on their storefront. But let's say, for example, you downloaded Doom from the Xbox Live account because technically you had it available digitally on the Xbox One system. So you were like, you know what, I want to go ahead and have it available on my Nintendo Switch. And rather than paying for it twice, I just can go ahead and download it from where I purchased it in the Xbox Live and have it digitally downloaded onto the Nintendo Switch. Makes sense, right? Well, let's say something happens. Let's say, God forbid, there was a technical issue and it kind of glitched up to where you can't even turn on the system. Let's just say that, okay? Let's just say something technical happens. It can, not to say that it's going to, but it could. Let's say something like that happens. So, because of that it was owned by Microsoft, they would contact Microsoft customer support and ask them for help. It's like, hey, I technically purchased this on my Xbox Live for the Xbox One, try downloading for the Nintendo Switch, won't work on the Nintendo Switch. Then they'll go about saying, well, that's the Nintendo problem. You have to contact your Nintendo provider. They contact Nintendo. Tell them the situation. They said, well, technically you downloaded that game from the Xbox Live account, therefore you have to talk to Microsoft. Then they talked to them and said, no, that's a Nintendo situation, and then it goes back and forth, and it could be a confusion situation. It's different whenever it's like on PC, because technically, depending on the PC provider, you would have been the ultimate one that may have built the PC yourself, which means you would have been held responsible as to how the performance would have been. Makes sense. With a console, that's a different story. You technically didn't build the console, it was the company that built the console. And like I said, if you had purchased the game, said from Xbox One, and purchased it digitally from the Xbox Store, you thought to yourself, well, if I have it for the Nintendo Switch, I can take that game anywhere I can go. So you tried downloading it and something might have happened in terms of programming, in terms of technicality, in terms of graphical issues, stuff like that. There could be numbers of things. Again, it's a slight nitpick, it's a slight compilation, but at the same time, it is a customer support issue that could build up to be something stupid. Trust me whenever I say this, if last year taught us anything, it is that customer support for gaming is important to try to focus on. Very important. Instead of being an absolute dick and saying, well, you bought it, deal with it, you need to be a better company and support the customer service so that way you can sell more games. If you just become an absolute ass about it and not even bother helping the customer, it's only going to hurt the gaming industry in the long run, and it's going to hurt you even further into development. Doesn't matter what future games you may have available, people will not buy them if you don't support the customer service itself. End of story. Now, why would Microsoft put Xbox Live on the Nintendo Switch? This doesn't make sense, right? This seems like a big jump. Even though a lot of people are raw-horroring this and everything like that, there's an equal amount of people that are confused and thought this doesn't make sense. Here's why Microsoft is doing this. They are preparing for the future. They are preparing for the almighty end of physical media into the ultimate digital age. And a lot of people at first thought that this would be the last console generation that we see in terms of physical media and stuff like that. This would be the last console generation. Turns out they were wrong. We have another console generation coming up, but obviously it's not going to be that superiorly better. It's just going to be better performance in terms of hardware limitations, obviously. But as for graphical improvements, we're not going to see a major jump, unlike that with that of the PS2 to PS3, or even the PS3 to PS4 for that matter. It won't be that massively different. A lot of people have theorized this, and I'm willing to bet they're probably right on it. But Microsoft is theorizing that eventually we will get to a point to where we will no longer need a console, and instead we need a service when it comes to games. And every company's trying to do this. They're trying to be the better service, and they're trying to do it first. If they are because every company does this. Every company does this, okay? And I say this, and I'm more right than I should be. But every company has this one thought in their mind. And that is, if they are the first one that people think of, they win. Let's say, for example, Walmart versus Amazon. Okay? Which one would you go to more likely to buy stuff? Okay? Whether it be hardware, DVDs, groceries, whatever. If you are thinking about that company first, they have your money. They want to be the number one... I dropped the word all of a sudden. They want to be the number one store that you go to when it comes to purchasing anything. Whether it be games, whether it be movies, whether it be clothes, whether it be bedclothes, whether it be shoes, rather than anything. They want to be the first one on your mind. They want to be the first. And if they are the first on your mind, they win. They won your money, they won your wallet, and they're going to see you a lot more often. Same thing with Amazon, because they're an online store and everything like that. If they are the first one that's on your mind when you can't find anything from another store, but you think, oh, I'll go to Amazon, maybe they'll have that. They've won your money, they've won your wallet. They're going to see you more often. Same thing with gaming companies. If they are the first one in your mind when you think of a company, they win. Much like with Delmar and Nerd Thomas whenever they think of Nintendo. Same thing with Brandon and a couple of my friends when they think of Xbox. Same thing with me and a couple of my friends when I think of PlayStation. Whatever company you think of first, that's who you're going to go to first. Immediately. That's just a default when it comes to company thinking. They want to be the first thing in your mind, and they want to do this. They want to make certain that they are the first ones in your mind in order to win your wallet. If they're not the first, they won't succeed. But if they're the first thing that comes up to your mind, they've got your money. They've got your money right off the back. But that's the biggest theory as to why I think they're trying to make this happen. They're trying to be the first one to be a digital distribution center when it comes to games. They want to be the first one that you think of when it comes to stuff like this. And if they're the first ones, then they win. Same thing with Nintendo, same thing with Sony, same thing with Steam, Epic, whoever. But there's another thing that made me panic that came up recently, and it was something that was said from somebody that works at Sony. I can't think of the name right now, but this was something that he said. He said that cloud gaming is eventually going to happen. It's going to happen eventually. We may not know when, but it's going to be the future. Now, before I go into my argument against it, this is something that scares me a lot. Okay, this is what scares me the most. If cloud gaming becomes a thing, that means that there will be no longer physical games. You won't be able to play your physical games anymore. Instead, you'll have to download them through the system and the company, and depending on how they go about it, you'll have to download it multiple times. And depending on if it's a streaming service, like PlayStation Now, I suppose, it could lead into multiple complications starting out as it is. And multiple people will drop it on the top of the hat. They will drop it. And it just scares me that we are getting to a point to where companies don't care about the physical media, and the younger audiences of gaming don't care about the physical media. They'll just waste money because it's a digital game. It's not a real thing, so it doesn't really matter to them. It really doesn't. But to us, older gamers, for us who have lived through the PlayStation 2, through the N64, who've lived through the generations of having physical media, we love having that. We love being able to just put that cartridge in or putting that disc in and just turning on the system and playing it whenever we want to. We don't want to be restricted by what we have to have. We don't want to have the internet on. We don't have to have the ability to log into an account. We just want to put something in, turn it on, and we start. That's all we want. But we get to a point now to where we have to have an account just to play certain games. We have to be able to download the games in order to purchase them. Certain games are only available digitally that we can no longer get physically. And the list goes on. There are certain situations that can happen. And recently, we just lost the Nintendo Wii eShop. Now, for some people, this may not matter, but for a lot of others, it does matter. Guess what? The majority of the games that were digitally available through the eShop never got a physical release. Which means the majority of the digital games are lost forever. They are lost forever. They're gone. You'll never get them again. If you didn't purchase them before the ultimate shutdown of the eShop for the Nintendo Wii, they're gone. And the same thing's going to happen to other consoles. I've recently received 3 newsletters from Sony about the PlayStation 3. Now, they haven't shut it down completely, but they are shutting down online servers for certain games. I know in the past 3, they have shut down a lot of different ones. Each one, they've shut down like 2 or 3 at a time. It won't be long before you won't be able to purchase any games on the PlayStation 3 PlayStation Store. You won't be able to do that anymore. And keep in mind, the games that were available for the PlayStation 3 PlayStation Network Store aren't accessibly available for the PS4 PlayStation Network. They're both different servers. The PlayStation 3 had a lot of PlayStation 1 games available to download. Unfortunately for the PlayStation 4, it didn't. And this is not good. Not being able to download games that you could previously get for the PlayStation 3, not being able to download them for the PlayStation 4, it will hurt. It will hurt. The ultimate end is that eventually it will get to a point to where we can't play our favorite games anymore, and instead, companies will restrict you from playing certain games. If there's a game that they don't want you to play, they will remove it. This has been seen multiple times. Whether it was a lawsuit issue, whether it was a censorship issue, or whether it was a difficulty of selling the game for that matter. If it doesn't suit the company in general, they will remove it from the system itself. They will remove it periodly, and you won't be able to play that game anymore. There are people who will love certain games that come out and everything like that, and yet they get removed? Are you telling me that you don't care about your customers enough to say, oh, well, this game doesn't do so well, so we're just going to remove it from the store? Not everyone has the ability to purchase every game from your store. So why are you restricting people from playing the game when you first release them to begin with? Just because it doesn't do very well from the get-go doesn't mean it couldn't be revived later on. It's the same thing for movies and stuff of that nature. It gets later on popularized in later years. I can't name the number of times that I have found older games for the PlayStation 2 that I have absolutely adored that I didn't know about until years later. Imagine if it was in the digital era. I wouldn't have known about Blood Would Tell. Blood Will Tell would not exist if it was in the digital age. It didn't do well when it first came out, but now it is a very highly thought out game. You're telling me that if we go into this full digital era or Steam era, that you want that? You want to be able not to play your favorite games. That's what's going to happen. Companies have the freedom to do this. Regardless of how you want to look at it, this is something that they will do, and they don't need your approval. They will do it themselves. Let's make a better example, okay? Let's make a better example. Let's say that Microsoft no longer makes a console, and instead they go full-fledged for their services. Over time, Halo will lose its edge, and people won't play it anymore. They may play Halo 1 probably from time to time, but they won't play the next Halo game that comes out probably. Depending. Let's just say that. Then Microsoft gets the stupid ideal assumption of like, well, since no one cares about the latest Halo game, let's just remove all of the Halo games. Let's say they do something stupid like that. You doubt me on that? You might want to look into it and see how true I could be. But we'll say they remove all of their Halo games from their services. The very game they basically made Xbox was completely wiped from their services from being played. You won't be able to play the game anymore. It's no longer there. That's the fear that I have, is that the games that we grew up with, that we played, can't be found anymore. Just can't get them. They're gone. They're history. They're gone to a faraway place never to be seen again. And the only way you can do it is by paying thousands of dollars just to pirate the damn thing. And that's the issue that we have. is that we're having to result in illegal issues in order to get the stuff that we want. That shouldn't be the case. Company needs to realize that they need to support the customer themselves. And if they don't support the customers, guess what? We're going to end up in another crash. I predict that's going to happen. If they don't carefully take care of their services, take care of their customers, and deliver the best that they can, and provide every game, never removing. And if they even remove it, they're going to hurt themselves a little more at a time. It just takes a handful of removals to a point to where they'll remove any game that they don't want. Whatever game they feel like, you know what, this doesn't suit our reputation, remove it. Remove this game, remove this game, remove this game, delete this game, remove it, remove it, remove it. We'll have another crash where people don't want to purchase the next console generation or even the next service. They won't purchase the service because they can't play any of their favorite games anymore. It would be a form of boycotting because they're like, why'd you remove my favorite game? Well, because it doesn't fit our services. Well, it was my favorite game. Well, too bad. There are other games that you can play that are better. The gamer's not going to care. They want their games. Why should you choose what games they get to play? That's not fair. It destroys the reason for why people want to play games. We have a huge variety of games. If you restrict what games your consumer plays, guess what? It's going to hurt you. Again, this may be me overthinking it, but I'm not wrong on this. I really am not. I'm not wrong. There have been multitudes of games that's been deleted. How many remember Scott Cawthon versus the World, the game? How many remembers that? Do you still have it on your PlayStation 3? Congratulations. You have one of the very few digital games that can never be available anywhere else. You can no longer download that because it's completely gone. I don't know why the reason they deleted it, but there was some form of issue that made them have to remove it. Same thing for PT, which technically is on there. Technically, if I'm not mistaken, it is available to be downloaded. But they removed it after this whole Kojima thing. It was a big thing, to a point to where they were charging $1,000 for a PS4 that had a digital code for PT. And technically the demo's free. The demo's free, so long as you had a PlayStation 4, you could download that game. But then they removed it. Record, I think, is back on, but they did remove it at one point. And this is the issue that I have with digital gaming. If I can't play the game anymore, I'm not going to support your service. That's how it should be looked at. But let's say every company does this. They start removing games because it didn't meet their quota of sales. You know, because every company out there are now looking at millions. And instead of looking at like a good 1 million copies sold, if it not meet their quota, they'll look at it as a disappointment and they'll remove it. They'll be like, nope, this doesn't meet our quota. Remove it. Remove it. It's the biggest thing that I fear the most. I don't want that. I want to be able to play any game, regardless if it's been 10, 20, 30 years. I want to have the ability to play the game. Don't take it away from me. Don't take it away from anybody else. They have the right to choose what games they want to play. They want to be able to play any game that you publish. And if you just remove it, that's not good. There is, however, one upset that I can say about this. And it's basically why we have the next console generation to begin with. Okay? So long as we buy their console, so long as we buy any console that comes out, so long as companies sees the number of consoles being sold, like Sony selling almost 100 million PlayStation 4 systems, the reason why Microsoft has sold practically 41 or 45, maybe 50 million copies already of their Xbox One. It's the reason why Nintendo has practically sold over almost 70 million copies of the Nintendo Switch. So long as these consoles sells, and we as consumers purchase them, if we continue doing this, they will continue making consoles. And so long as we keep buying physical copies, they will keep making physical copies. Again, I know people want to keep digital, they want to have digital distribution because they like it, how easy it is to have it on their system, how easy it is to select the game and everything like that, and how much better it runs technically and everything like that. But it takes a big move, like digital distribution or cloud gaming, to ruin something perfect. I don't want my hobby to be ruined. I want to be able to keep playing games until I'm 85, which years ago we thought was never possible. We see news. Actually, there are actually 5 news that I can count of where there's an 85-year-old person or a 90-year-old person or a 50-year-old couple or an 80-year-old couple who are playing games. And that's beautiful. I love the fact that it doesn't matter what age you are. You can be as young as 10 years old, or you can be as old as freaking 190. If you love games, you have the ability to play them. And that's the beauty of it. I love stuff like that. But if companies turn around and make it to where you can't play these games anymore, and make it a complicated mess, we will have another crash. Again, this is just a future ideal, and so long as physical media and physical console becomes continuing a thing, and so long as we keep performing this practice and stuff, we may never see a cloud gaming. But companies are betting money that there will be a cloud service. Companies are betting money that there will be digital distributions and stuff like that. They are literally investing millions of dollars in this ideal practice. They are trying to push it. They're not pushing it full forward, but they're slowly pushing it out there to where it's accessibly available. And so long as they trinkle a little bit of treats on top of it, where it's like a discounted game, or being able to purchase the game for free, or being able to play any games, 100 games, 10,000 games, for a subscription monthly of like $10.99 or something stupid like that. So long as they trinkle something like that, we will fall for that practice. Any reason for us to play games and play more games of it, we will do this. But it takes one major move, removing a game from the library, that will hurt that. It's enough of a reason for me not to support it. Anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions. What do you think? Could I be losing my mind and overthinking this? Which I'm willing to bet that I am overthinking this. But I'm not wrong. You can't deny that I'm wrong. I could be right in some aspects. There are evidential proof that this is the case. I just hope this doesn't happen whenever I'm alive. If it happens right after I die, that's fine. You can do whatever the flip you want. Just don't do it to my favorite games, okay? I want to keep playing. I want to keep playing games, regardless if I'm 80 or I'm 30, which I'll be turning 30 in the next couple of months. So, anyway though guys, thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you in the next video. Take care, guys.